Yo, who dat? Girthquake, he is back. God, I am here, better than ever. How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? How are we doing? First one in the chat, boys. Let's go. Fellas, the traffic, insane. I had to absolutely scarf down dinner to make it. Listen to this dinner. Now, I'm telling you, it's never wrong to be strong, okay? 6 eggs. All right. A pound of ground beef. And a whole jar of guacamole. Just put together. Just shoveled it in. So we're really testing the stomach. How are we doing? Apparently Twitter now, by the way, Twitter, you got to be Twitter Premium to live stream. So I'm gonna have to get that figured out. So tonight we are only multi-streaming on 2 different mediums. All right. There we go. Boom. Tweet is out there. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not following the Twitter, what are you even doing with your life? All right. We got some stuff popping off. We got a voice message from the boy Corey. We got, boom. Hopefully the way you shoveled it in don't come out fast the other way. Big true. Garrett, what's happening? Favorite movie of all time? Brute, what's happening? Favorite movie of all time? I'll give you some. I'm not following because Twitter's cheeks. I accept that. You found your way here anyways, so we don't need it. My favorite movie of all time is Jurassic Park. There you go. That's the truth. Now I'll give you a couple more honorable mentions that are in the top 5. Good Will Hunting, Rocky IV, Terminator 2, Titanic. All of those in the top 5. But Jurassic Park is probably my favorite movie. Pulp Fiction, polarizing movie. Pulp Fiction is a very polarizing movie. American Me, never even heard of that. Never heard of that one. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be reacting to a few videos tonight. We are going to be streaming until 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Gladiator's a great one. Good one. That's a good one. Gladiator's a really good one. How do you feel about Gladiator 2? Let me ask you that. How do you feel about Gladiator 2 getting involved? Bat City, what's up? Saints going to show up or not? That's all I need to know. Oh, yeah. They're showing up. They're showing up to the tune of over 7.5 wins. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that right now. Now, what does that mean? Who the hell knows? The Matrix, good one. That's a good one. The Matrix is a good one. A couple other honorable mentions. Casino, Goodfellas. Casino's way up there. Casino might be like my top 3. It might be. I mean, it might just be Jurassic Park, Casino, Good Will Hunting. Rounders, way up there. They need to stop the reboots and just make new stuff. True. I'll say we are mid until proven otherwise. Okay. I hear you, but hear me. Mid is probably what we're going to be. But mid can get you a playoff spot. Mid can win you a division. Mid can get you, hosting a playoff game. I'll take it. 40-Year-Old Virgin, classic. Hangover, classic. I'm putting a fat stack on the over 7.5 games this year. That makes 2 of us, my friend. That makes 2 of us. But yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing with mid, you know, like, and that's kind of the conversation that I was having with myself whenever I was reacting. Click with Adam Sandler is amazing. Yes, make you cry every time. When I was talking to myself, reacting to Mina Kimes and Ryan Clark's video, if you haven't seen it, it's got probably 6,000 views right now. But they keep saying, like, the Saints are average, the Saints are this, the Saints are that, the Saints are that. And then they drop that 27th ranking on them. My whole thing is that I agree, the Saints are average. The Saints are somewhere between 14 and 17, somewhere in there, 14 and 20, as far as, like, ranked. But I don't care about all that. All I care about is that they're good enough to win the division. They were mid last year. They were average last year. They were probably below average last year, and we lost the division on a tiebreaker. Okay? So, like, that's really the whole thing. I don't need this team to be top 10. I don't need this team to be top 12. If they are, cool. Sure. Whatever. But I don't need that. Zachary James, have you seen the clips of Amon-Ra dogging on the Saints on his podcast? Yes. And Amon-Ra is kind of okay, let me back this up. Big dog, what's up, Rebel Raider? What's happening? Amon-Ra is kind of saying what I'm saying. Like, who is the other? Is it Equanimous St. Brown was the other one? Is that who? Is that? I guess that's the podcast. Equanimous St. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So, like, for Equanimous to say we believe we're going to win the Super Bowl, Amon-Ra is like, brother, no one believes you're going to win the Super Bowl. And I do agree, like, it is good to have the aspiration of winning the Super Bowl, but to say, like, we're going to win the Super Bowl, it's like, my man, how about we start with winning the division? How about we start with winning 10 games? How about we start with winning, over 500? Like, let's start, and then we can get there. But it's just like, I used this metaphor last live stream. I've never played the guitar, ever. If I bought a guitar and I said, I'm going to be headlining Madison Square Garden next year as a guitarist, it's like, okay, let's just pump the brakes, cowboy. Like, that's good. That's a great aspiration. But how about you take it out of the box? Like, how about you unwrap it? How about you learn how to play, like, for 20 seconds before we start talking about headlining Madison Square Garden? Could I? With enough practice and luck and whatever, and who the hell knows? Sure. Anything is possible. But to just say, like, for the Saints to be like, we are Super Bowl, we're going to win the Super Bowl, it falls flat. And I do agree with Amon-Ra St. Brown it does fall flat, because every team could say that. But you got to win first. You got to win playoff games first. You got to make the playoffs first. You got to win your division first. And that's what I was saying last year. We can't get lost in the journey. We can't focus on the finish line. James, do you think it's playoffs or bust for DA? Probably not. Playoffs or bust is a lot. If he wins, if we win 9 games and that's not good enough for the playoffs, I think he'll probably stick around. If we win 10 games and it's not good enough for the playoffs, he'll stick around. Screw that. My mom worked at Dragos in the 70s. Those charboiled oysters are legit. Listen. I mean, they are legit. But I'm more of just a straight up oysters on the half shell kind of guy. I mean, maybe it's my Mississippi roots, but I actually don't really like, I love them. But I actually would rather on the half shell with, like, some, Tabasco or Crystal, some lemon, some, horseradish, whatever. I'd rather that over char-grilled, char-broiled, with any of the butter, garlic stuff all over it. And, I like Oyster Rockefeller, but I would prefer oysters on the half shell. Boom, I'm going to town with, cocktail sauce, whatever else. Lemon. If we don't make the playoffs and he stays, what does the future look like? I think it looks fine. If we don't make the playoffs, if we have 10 wins and we don't make the playoffs, mean, let's say the Falcons win 12 games. And so 10 wins doesn't win you the division. Let's say all the other wildcard teams win 11 games. If we go 10-7, are you going to fire Dennis Allen? No, that doesn't make any sense, right? Now, if we win eight games, I think you have a conversation. If we win 7 games, you have a conversation. 6 games, you probably fire him. Now, I've said this before. I'll say it again. We'll play a choose your own adventure game. If you fire Dennis Allen, it's probably because the Saints weren't good, right? If you're firing Dennis Allen, more than likely the Saints didn't make the playoffs. More than likely the Saints weren't above 500. So who is going to be your head coach? Because you're not going to promote Clint Kubiak. Why would you promote a second-year offensive coordinator of a team that was bad enough to fire the head coach? Right? So let's say you fire Dennis Allen. Well, you're going to have to fire the entire defensive staff because Dennis Allen obviously is the defensive guy. So now you got to get a head coach who can't be an offensive guy because you have Clint Kubiak. But you wouldn't hate him being an offensive guy because Clint Kubiak's offense couldn't get you above 500, couldn't get you to the playoffs, right? It has to be a defensive guy because you fired Dennis Allen. But Dennis Allen is probably the best defensive coordinator. So you're firing Dennis Allen to stay the same on offense and get worse on defense, theoretically. So then what would be the reason to fire him? Now, again, if he wins 6 games or 7 games, yeah, fire him. It's not working. But 9 wins, I think it's hard to fire him. 10 wins and no playoffs means our division must not be the weakest anymore unless we have to suffer another tiebreaker. But that's kind of crazy too. Like, that would be kind of par for the course. If we won 10 games and like the Bucs won 10 games, we won 10 games and the Falcons won 12 games or 11 games, where it's like, yeah, that everyone's kind of above average. And that's what we expect. We expect everyone to be kind of right there neck and neck. All right, let's get into the reaction videos. We're only going to be streaming until 8 p.m. per usual. Got a late start because of the traffic. I had to wolf down 6 eggs, pounded ground beef, avocados, because it's never wrong to be strong. Did RDLs today. The hamstrings are bumping. All right. Let's do this. So this was sent to me. I think this was on the subreddit. Or it might have been an email. I can't remember. It was either an email or a subreddit. But thank you very much. Let me see who this young man is. Sports Talk Extra. Sports Talk Extra. New Orleans Saints get the guy everyone wants. I can't wait to see who this is because I have no idea what he's talking about. Now, I thought originally, I was like, oh, the guy everyone wants must be Talise Fuaga. This was released yesterday. All right, so it's a little late for Talise Fuaga talk, a little late for Spencer Rattler talk. Also, sidebar, Bobby Boucher jersey in the shadow box. Brother, it's embarrassing. All right, it's time to get rid of it. Okay, it's time to retire the Bobby Boucher jerseys. Can we just all agree? Like, can we all agree to not wear the Will Ferrell semi-pro jerseys? Can we all just agree? All right. All right. New Orleans Saints get the guy everyone wants. Let's hear who it is.
The New Orleans Saints get the guy that everyone wants.
Yeah,
if you're new to the channel, we're Detroit Lions fans, but we have this channel covering teams and stories that just get overlooked by the national media. I think the New Orleans Saints are a team that just kind of sitting there. They're in the NFC South, a division famous for producing winners in that division that kind of come out of nowhere. Saints feel primed for that. And one of the
Okay. So far, I agree with this young man.
big reasons is because of this offseason. They get a guy that's perfect for what they need, and that's Clint Kubiak as the...
Yes. This guy surprised me. I did not think he would talk about Clint Kubiak. If Clint Kubiak is the guy everyone wants, I'm going to be really fired up for this video because finally, someone's talking about the right things. We hear way too many people talking about stuff that doesn't matter, and now this guy, this young man right here, Chris, is starting to talk the way I like to hear. So I'll let him keep going.
The offensive coordinator. The Saints offense needed a change.
Yes.
And we'll get to the playmakers. We'll get to what is going on the offensive side of the ball. And to bring in a solid coordinator like Kubiak to get the most out of Derek Carr for the 2024 season. And here's what's interesting, and I think they say it perfectly in this paragraph. Carr was his same self in 23 that he's kind of always been. A lot of good, but unfortunately plenty of bad, with letdowns and mistakes in key moments and just not winning games that good quarterbacks can go out and find a way to win. That
Okay, whatever. But what I like more about the Clint Kubiak hire is that it gets the Saints up to speed with the rest of the NFL. It gets the Saints up to, like, y'all ever play a video game where you just don't know the meta? You just don't have a clue what the meta is. Like, you're playing FIFA, or you're playing Madden, or you're playing Call of Duty, and you have the wrong loadouts, you got the wrong players, you got the wrong formation, and you're just getting embarrassed by some 11-year-old who got some FIFA points or Madden points or Call of Duty for Christmas, and is ruining your life. And then finally you Google or you YouTube a meta video, and you fix your formation, you fix your players, you fix your roster, and all of a sudden you're winning. You're caught up to speed. You can't just do the same old thing all the time. The Saints were doing the same old thing all the time. Not to mention that same old thing was created in 2005 by Sean Payton. Ladies and gentlemen, I said this, and everyone's been copying it. The Saints have been doing the same thing since the day Sean Payton walked in the door. The same thing. The NFL has changed dramatically since 2005. Think about all the pre-snap motion. Think about all the creativity. Think about what Mike McDaniel is doing in Miami compared to what teams were doing in 2006. Sean Alexander was on the cover of Madden in 2006. Okay? Double check me on that, but I'm almost guaranteed. I almost would guarantee you that's correct. Seahawks, Sean Alexander, boom. That era was the era of Priest Holmes, Larry Johnson, Sean Alexander. It wasn't the era of spreading teams out and motion and creative play calling. That would come much later. 15 years later, the Saints are still doing the same thing. All right? So the point is, as much as you can pinpoint Carr, as much as you can pinpoint the offense or pinpoint, passing yards per game or whatever, the fact that we're just getting somebody who's thinking new, who's innovative, who's thinking, who's evolving, who's up to date on game theory, that's what I'm excited about.
That's really what the essence of the league is when you break it down. To be really good on that high tier team, you need a quarterback that can go get a win late in the game and not just like, turnover.
I like this guy, but I hate whenever analysis gets down to, like, you need a guy who can get you a win. What the hell does that mean? What does that mean? I'm pretty sure Derek Carr leads the NFL in comeback wins. Pretty sure. But what does that mean? Like, they need someone who can go get a win. How do I quantify that? Like, you always hear, like, oh yeah, this team's good because that the quarterback he's got that dog in him. Well, what are we talking about? So I hope I hope the analysis doesn't just end there.
False start, weird things. No, go win the game. So Kubiak was the 49ers passing game coordinator last season and helped orchestrate one of the most efficient offenses in the league. Efficiency feels like what the Saints need most.
True. Big true.
So
big
PFF
real.
is all over this. They're looking at the biggest hires, the biggest moves, each team, the best thing that they did all offseason. And I agree with this for a couple of reasons. Number one, efficiency is the name of the game right now.
Intangibles? Yeah, I don't like I don't like when we talk about intangibles. Because it's like someone's clutch until they're not. You know what I mean? Like, if you shoot, like, if LeBron James shoots a three and wins the game, he's clutch. If 2 weeks later he shoots a three and misses it and loses the game, he's not clutch, or is he still clutch? But, like, intangibles are way too prisoner of the moment. They're way too like, what have you done for me lately? If you have a kicker who's never missed a field goal, a game-winning field goal in his life, he is absolutely clutch until he misses the field goal to win the Super Bowl. Then it's hard to call him clutch, right? He could make 50 in a row. He could win 50 games in a row. Then he misses that Super Bowl kick. I got a feeling all of a sudden the fans are not going to think he's as clutch as he was.
Now, and that's what everyone's looking for. It's about efficiency in terms of what are you going to do offensively? Are you going to play ball control, kind of run the ball? You've got the running back to do that. Are you going to get a little bit more explosive? You know, it kind of depends on the game plan. Are we going to take some chunk plays? You've got the players to do that. Olave. What are you going to do? But you have to be efficient. That means first downs, chunk plays when they're there. You can't go backwards or get stuck. And that's what happens.
Yeah, Kubiak's talked about that. Kubiak's talked about, we have to stay ahead of the chains. We've got to get positive yards. We can't have 2nd and 10. We can't have 3rd and 10. A good way to do that is what Pete Carmichael liked to do. Have Jamal Williams on the field, run the ball 3 straight times. 1st and 10, 2nd and 10, 3rd and 10, punt. That's a Pete Carmichael special. That is the number 4 combo meal if Pete Carmichael had a fast food restaurant.
Happened to the Saints too often last year. Just be a quarter of didn't get a first down. That whole quarter. It's like
terrible. They're ass.
That's hard on the defense. You go a whole half without getting a first down or 1 first down.
Brother. We went the first half. We looked at this last stream. We went the first half without scoring a touchdown for like 6 weeks in a row.
Or turnovers or go backwards. And it's just that stuff's really hard on the offense, obviously. It's hard on the defense as well when they're kind of getting out there and they got to stop the bleeding. And it's like it's 14-0. And, we saw that with the Lions last year, that Lions game. It's just the Lions hang on to win that game against the Saints because they get out to such a big lead and it's just so hard to come back. So those are the things that offensively the Saints have to keep up, because you look at it, and this is what's pretty cool about this is the PFF comes out with a player profile on Chris Olave. And what's interesting, Olave is the real deal. Only a few wide receivers of the past decade have played better in their first 2 seasons than Olave.
PFF's got it figured out. And this is what I like to hear, because how many times have we gone over this where people talk about Drake London? Drake London ain't done nothing. Chris Olave in the first couple of years has been a very, very, very good teetering on elite wide receiver. Let's say you're low on Olave. If you're low on Olave, he's still a top 20 guy. If you're high on Olave like I am, he's a top 15 guy. So now the depth of the wide receiver room, the difference from Olave and Rashid Shaheed, the difference there is wide. But if Olave can take a step forward and go from top 15 to top 10, whoo.
He's got a lot working in his favor except quarterback. And this is, again, coming from a fantasy perspective, which I like to do sometimes because it is interesting to see what the fantasy nerds see, because they're not usually wrong. They're not wrong. It's just looking at it differently. So he's got a lot working in his favor from a fantasy perspective, that he has less competition for touches and a coach that won't restrict his routes in the new offensive coordinator.
True. Yep, true.
But he still has Derek Carr at quarterback. Derek Carr, it's like it's time to go or it's time to go. Meaning, let's go, or you might find your way out of the league. I mean, really, that's kind of where it's at. And because the Saints will have to make a decision, like, we're going to have to do something different.
Yeah, I mean, if Carr's bad this year, we'll more than likely we'll move on. We'll start to figure out what that next chapter looks like.
Because it's just not working. And so that's just kind of how it feels. So he has excelled. 87 PFF grade over the first 2 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. Like, again, Chris Olave, 87.2 PFF receiving grade over his first 2 seasons, ranks 8th over the past 10 years.
It's great in nearly
over the last decade. 8th.
Every situation.
Like, think about that. Olave has been the 8th best receiver per PFF's ranking over the last 10 years, and I've got people telling me he's not even a top 20 wide receiver in the league right now. Crazy. I love that when you break down. I love when you take good analytics from an analytical group, that's doing stuff, and then you take the narrative. And it's crazy how different the narrative can be. I mean, we've got people who are honestly saying, I've heard them, I've seen the comments that are saying that Chris Olave has been disappointing. And then you look at this professional group whose job is to grade players, telling me that he has had the 8th best start to a career in the last 10 years. That's a pretty wide gap from the narrative to the analytics. That's wild. That's why I love digging into the analytics, because it really does show you what's going on. It takes all the bias out. It takes all the emotion out of it.
That's what's really cool. He plays in almost every game. He goes out he plays 30 routes per game. He's getting targeted a quarter of the time. Everything you look at, every stat from, again, we're looking at a fantasy, but we're also looking at, and the reason I bring him up is because this is a playmaker on your team. You've got the running back and Alvin Kamara. Get efficient on offense, and you've got it. That's why the hiring was so big, and this is what everyone's trying to do. Get your receiver open, chunk plays, boom. Run the ball, hold on to the ball, constantly be moving forward. Efficiency, and you've got the quarterback to do it. And you look at Chris Olave's production by situation. Again, this is on a rocky offense.
This guy's kind of cooking right now.
Offense last year, rocky, man coverage, single coverage. Oh, I mean, this is like everything. Is he double covered? Everything is really good, and it doesn't matter what the situation is. And it's crazy to see that. So again, there's going to be some good and bad because there's not really great receivers alongside him, but he's got Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill. I mean,
the Rashid Shaheed, Bub Means, Cedric Wilson, Stanley Morgan, and Equinemius St. Brown, that group is weak, no doubt about it. Especially considering one of those guys I just named has to be the number 2. That is weak. He was right about that.
They're there, but they're also a year beyond their prime. So I think that's right as well. So again, and by the way, let me know in the comments when I think of New Orleans Saints, man. Of course, Drew Brees, obviously, but like who are the players? Who's your favorite player? New Orleans Saints.
Ah, damn it! I this guy's been cooking. I gotta give him credit, but I cannot stand. I've talked about this before. I cannot stand whenever videos comment farm and they ask some random question to get comments in the comment section, instead of just making the content engaging. The boy, the face of the franchise, the Superstars videos. 100, 150, 200 comments every video. How many times have I ever sat back and said, all right, let me pause the video, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone go comment your favorite type of pasta. I've never done that. I think it's a clickbaity type thing. Nothing against this guy. Get it how you live. But, I always cringe when I hear people do that.
Saints, not obvious one. So give me an one of your all-time favorite New Orleans Saints player, but it can't be an obvious one. Let me just look up here.
Okay, is this what he's going to do at the end?
Player, let me know in the comments. Again, if you're new to the channel, figure things out.
All right, there you go. Good video. Besides the end, good video. But yeah, I'm right there with him. Like, it is huge that we're getting Clint Kubiak. That is the difference. Like, that is the big differentiator, where if you just look at the Saints and you don't know what's going on with Pete Carmichael and you don't know what's going on with Clint Kubiak, you don't really understand on a super intricate level, and you miss that, I can see where you look at the Saints and you're like, this team sucks. But there's a big change happening. I'm going to get caught up in chat. Now. Uncle Deuce, what time is it where you are? It is 7:13 p.m. Ashton, James, what's up, big dog? What's happening? Ian Rappaport just announced that Ryan Ramczyk's out for the season. We knew that. We said that was going to happen 4 or 5 months ago. I'll go a step further. Ryan Ramczyk is going to retire next year. when first available. I think it's after June 1st of next year. His salary cap hit won't hurt us. That's the only reason he's on the roster is because we cannot handle his salary cap hit if he was to retire. He's getting paid a couple $1 million to just hang around. Cool. He will retire next year. Around 2013 Super Bowl time, Mexico had avocado wars as cartels were extorting farmers all because we had to have our guacamole at Super Bowl parties. Real story. Well, I just sewed up 4 avocados. James, when we playing Fortnite or Madden? Whew. Played a little Fortnite the other night. We had one of the greatest games of my life. Played with my sister. Most unbelievable win. I'm going to put that up on the gaming channel, I think, that clip. What do you think about Brandon Aiyuk potentially joining Clint Kubiak and Nola? We're going to watch a video up next where I'm going to go in depth on that. James, metaphors be on point. Dude, I was kind of lighting up the metaphors in that video. What up, James and the Skrmetta fan? Pammy Whammy. Chat, can we get some what's up? Can we get some what's ups to Pammy Whammy? Can we all say hello to Pammy Whammy? James, good work. Keep it up. Thank you, Swag Nation. It's called it's the Intangibles. I think we're going to see Carr close out more games this year. Breeze wasn't the biggest or the strongest or the fastest quarterback in the league, but he had it. See, that's where I hesitate because I think it's a disservice to Breeze to say he just had it. What he had was the most accurate arm in NFL history. What he had was an unbelievable work ethic, an unbelievable ability to study, ability to watch film, ability to be a leader of men. And that's it. But like to say he had it, and then you watch him throw the interception against the Rams in overtime, it's like, did he lose it? What happened to it? What happened to the intangible there? What happened to the intangible with the Minnesota Miracle? What happened to the intangible? The intangibles are cool until they're not. And then it's like, well, where are they? Are the intangibles there sometimes, but they're not there sometimes? Like, Tom Brady, all the intangibles you can say Tom Brady had, are those intangibles gone when he lost to Eli twice? Did Eli have more intangibles during those games? It's real convoluted, so. Do you think Chris Olave can have an Amon-Ra St. Brown type of season? I don't know if he'll get the volume. Live show, that's what's up. LL, that's right. We do a live show every Thursday, except for next Thursday I'll be out of town. But every Thursday, usually I do a live show from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. A guy in your comments said Olave would be a good number 2 receiver. Crazy. I know, isn't that nuts? Isn't that nuts? Guy's 8th best in a decade, and we got people saying he's not even a number 2. Rashid Shaheed is underrated. Yeah, I mean he's I don't know. I mean I think he's relatively properly rated. I don't think he's a number 2. I don't think Shaheed is a top end number 2. James, what's your prediction for Olave yards over under 1250? I'd say right on the number. That's a good number. 1250 is right there. I'll say over, but James, they need you on AFR. I don't know if I would do AFR. They need me on ESPN they need me on the station. They need to give me a couple hours is what they need to do. That station's got to wake up. But then again, so does WWL, so does all the other stations putting out my God, it's a snooze fest out there. I mean, God, dog. The NFC Championship will be Lions versus Saints. Creating high-quality and engaging content is more effective in retaining your audience than asking what their favorite color is in the middle of the video. Ryan, well said. Rashid, definitely underrated. He just needs volume, not his fault. Pistol Pete can't scheme. Possibly. Could be a Pistol Pete thing. Absolutely. Could be a Pistol Pete thing, for sure. All right, let's get to Ross Jackson. Let me get some agua. That's water. No big deal. Look at this. Boom. Gallon, son. Gallon jug. Where's the Madden franchise? My fault last weekend. We got tied up. Madden franchise will be popping off this weekend along with College Football 25 content starting tomorrow. On the James Skrmetta Madden franchise channel. If you are interested in watching me play College Football 25 or run the Saints on Madden, James Skrmetta Madden franchise. Search it, follow it, believe it, love it. Look at this. Look at that. Huh? You think about that little flip top? Bop. All right. All right. I got a straight up bowling ball sitting in my stomach from dinner. Ground beef, 6 eggs, 4 avocados. Oh, it's never wrong to be strong, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow's chest and tries. I think I might go for a PR if I wake up feeling good. All right. That's 290 on the chest, by the way. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, just like that, we're going to the next video. This is from Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints podcast. We all know New Orleans Saints, Brandon Aiyuk trade, the case for and the case against. Let's watch. Ross, take it away.
Francisco 49ers wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk wants out, and therefore the New Orleans Saints should want in. We got all that and a little bit of lanyap for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
Little intro music, little graphic. Boom.
You are Locked On Saints.
Locked On
your
Saints.
Daily New Orleans Saints podcast.
Little
Part of the Locked On
beat.
Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Okay.
Oh, what is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I am your host, your friend Ross Jackson, New Orleans native, your New Orleans Saints expert and credentialed member of the media.
Okay, hold on a second. Expert. I guess Ross is an expert. For a second, I thought he was saying he's the expert. Because I mean, you know,
covering those New Orleans Saints as a senior writer and reporter over at Saints News Network. And on today's episode of Locked On Saints, we're going to take a look at the things that can get in the way of offensive success for Clint Kubiak's next system or new system here in New Orleans, and how the single customer, that's right, there's something for everyone. Go at least give John Lynch a phone call. Hey, what would it take? I mean, you have to give the farm for him. Off season, I want to go into the case for and against the New Orleans Saints pursuing Brandon Aiyuk. My personal opinion is that they should at least make the phone call.
I agree with that. That part I agree with. I think you at least make the phone call. I think you say, you know, what's it going to take? If the Niners come back and say a third, do it. Trade it. Do it. You know, why not? Now, Aiyuk's issue is that he wants to be paid as if he is one of the best receivers in the game. Not arguing that he's not, but the Saints really aren't in the market of going and trading for a guy who then you will have to sign as a like true number one type deal. True number one type money. Okay? So that part is a little weird. Now, if we can trade for him, trade a third, trade a fourth, I don't know what it would cost, probably a lot more than that. Trade a third, have him for 1 year, a rental, that's it. I don't hate that either, but it is complicated when it comes to our cap.
Doesn't mean you have to give the farm for him. Doesn't mean you have to really get into competing with teams like the Steelers and the Washington Commanders and others who are very likely to be also a part of this conversation, or are very likely to be a part of this conversation. But I do think you owe it to yourself, your organization, your fan base, your roster, your coaches, to at least give this one a shot.
Yeah,
see
I agree.
What happens with it, right? Go at least give John Lynch a phone call. Hey, what would it take? What's the asking price? Kind of figure all this stuff out. There were some early reports that, of course, a first-round pick was the asking price. That's what every team wants for almost any.
I'd say no. If it was a first rounder, if it's a first rounder for Aiyuk, I'd say no.
Player these days,
unless it's like 2028, then whatever.
That's very rarely what they ever get. A lot of people assume that the typical quote-unquote disgruntled player pay price, which is a second round and a fifth round pick, we've seen it for several players now across the NFL. I believe that was even what Brian Burns ended up getting traded for, despite the fact that Carolina had an offer on the table a year before from the Los Angeles Rams of 2 first-round picks. But let's not get focused on the Panthers' failures here. Let's look at a potential success for the New Orleans Saints. So you imagine that a second and a fifth round pick could potentially be enough. Is that?
That's right there. A second and a fifth is right there. A third and a fifth, sure. A second and a fifth, I had to really have a conversation about the cap.
Good enough for a 1 year rental. Is that good enough for a guy that
I don't think a second and a fifth is. I don't think a second and a fifth is worth a 1-year rental. If you are paying a second and a fifth, I think you believe that you could have a chance to sign him long term.
I bring into the building for a year, then maybe get an extension done with. We'll see. I think that there is a misconception that Brandon Aiyuk wanted his extension from the San Francisco 49ers, didn't get it, and therefore where he ends up, that he would require getting an extension and a long-term deal done wherever he ends up as well. That's not always the case. We'll learn if that's a part.
I think he definitely expects to be paid. And I think he definitely expects to be paid well. I think Brandon Aiyuk, and this happens all the time, where a player is in a system with a multitude of great players. George Kittle, Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey. And the player thinks they are the engine. The player thinks they are driving that offense. The team then thinks, no, my man, we have a system here. Like, we have a system, we have a good thing working. We can't pay one part of the system a ton of money because then the system falls. That happens all the time. All the time. It happens. It would be like in the Patriots days where Wes Welker would say, wait a minute, I want to be paid like the number one wide receiver. And the Patriots would say, well, my man, you aren't a number one wide receiver. You are our number one wide receiver, but we are a specific system. Right? Same with Julian Edelman. Same with Brandon Stokely back in the Peyton Manning days. Same with any of the receivers with Breeze. Right? If Marcus Colston said, I want to be paid like a number one wide receiver in the NFL, it's like, you are good, you are putting up numbers, but you are not a number one wide receiver in the NFL. You know, it's kind of it's a tough conversation to have, but it happens all the time.
Part of Brandon Aiyuk's part of the equation, but that still wouldn't stop teams probably from pursuing him as a 1-year rental anyway, and that's probably what this would be if you're the New Orleans Saints. You trade for him, bring him in, give up a second and a fifth round pick, you get a year with him, give him the opportunity then to go hit free agency in 2025, same time as T. Higgins is now set to hit free agency. Let him go out there, sign a big contract. You get a third round competitive.
But what sense does that make? What sense does that make to trade the second and the fifth for a 1-year rental? Your win total is 7.5. You won 9 games last year. We're going to be begging to win 8, 9, 10 wins this year. So you're giving up a second and a fifth for what? A 1-year rental for a guy that you're hoping can boost you to 9 wins? Newsflash. Brandon Aiyuk isn't boosting you to 10 or 11 wins. He will make you better, but you're going to need a whole lot more to win those games. So I don't see the rental aspect of it.
Tory selection in the next year as a part of that equation, and then boom, yeah, there you go. You're done. You know what I mean? You got what you got out of him for a year.
Yeah.
Is that really the route that the Saints want to go?
No.
I don't know, but that's the case for doing it, is that you would bring him in for 2024 and try to maximize your ability to compete in 2024. Now, I have been gung-ho on the idea that Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed are set for star trajectories in 2024. I do think that bringing in a Brandon Aiyuk impacts that because it takes away targets from those guys.
No, it impacts it to the better, because if you bring in Brandon Aiyuk, it's just one more weapon for the defense to try and figure out. It's just one more weapon that the defense has to plan for. It doesn't take targets away. It does in a sense, but it doesn't negatively impact your team. Like Puka Nacua doesn't negatively impact Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp doesn't negatively impact Puka Nacua. If you took one of them off of the team, it wouldn't positively impact the other one. It would negatively impact the other one, because then the coverage and the double teaming and all that would be much more on that player. So getting Brandon Aiyuk would benefit Chris Olave. It would benefit Rashid Shaheed.
To some capacity, at least. And with the, like we said, we're expecting to see more 2 wide receiver sets, things like that. That could potentially cut into one of those guys' snaps, particularly probably Rashid Shaheed in that.
No doubt about it. It'd be Rashid Shaheed.
That equation. But outside of that, it also gives you a guy to draw the sort of attention of a defense and then be able to.
And I've said this before too, don't get caught in wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, running back 1, running back 2. If Clint Kubiak and I'm speaking highly of Clint Kubiak here, but part of Kyle Shanahan's offense is that he's going to get whoever he wants on the field. So if he wants Chris Olave, Brandon Aiyuk, and Rashid Shaheed on the field at the same time, but he's in a 2 wide receiver set, it won't be nothing to Kyle Shanahan to have Olave and Aiyuk as the receivers, and then have the 2 running backs be Alvin Kamara and Rashid Shaheed, have Shaheed motion out. That's how you do it. Okay? So, this isn't 1999. Just because your wide receiver 3 isn't in the slot doesn't mean he won't be featured. So, and I'm not saying that they would always do that, but this offense does have some flexibility to get the best players on the field no matter what.
To elevate the talent that you have on the opposite side of Aiyuk, whether that's Olave or Shaheed in most of those situations. So for me, the thing that I look at is you kind of have to balance the 4, which is, can he help you compete right now, versus the against, does he stifle, even if just for a year, the development of your future superstar potential, future star potential level players.
I think arguing that Brandon Aiyuk would stifle your star, don't look at me like that, Ross. I think arguing that Brandon Aiyuk would stifle the superstar development of Rashid Shaheed is absolutely insane. I think that is one of the craziest things I've ever heard in my entire life. Absolutely insane. In what universe does bringing on a great player stifle the development of your young players? Like, did bringing on Randy Moss stifle any of the development of the wide receiver room for the Patriots? Like, what the Dolphins signed Odell Beckham. Is that stifling the development? Calvin Ridley's on the Titans now. Is Calvin Ridley stifling the development of anyone in the Titans receiver room? In what universe would bringing on Brandon Aiyuk be considered a negative to the wide receiver room or a negative to Rashid Shaheed? That's crazy.
Which one's better? And I think for the long term, you're probably leaning towards the latter as more of your focus. But
you're also wagering, this is also an insane gambit, where you are wagering that the long-term impact of Rashid Shaheed or whoever will at some point reach a level better than or good enough or the same as Brandon Aiyuk, which is a serious gamble. You cannot guarantee that. I mean, I don't know about this one, Ross. This one's out there.
But for the short term, you're leaning towards more of the former, actually trying to make this move as the better option, which makes sense because one of them is very clearly short term, while the other one is very clearly long term. Now, you could potentially land Brandon Aiyuk and work out an extension, because an extension would allow you to knock down his cap hit in 2024, extend and push some money out into 2025, 2026, 2027, all those other things.
Yeah.
An extension probably would be part of what would be required in order for the team to be able to make the move in the first place. Well,
then what the hell are we talking about? If an extension is required for the team to make the move in the first place, why are we talking about a rental? This is insane. This is crazy.
You know, that depends. Like, this team has shown that it is not right now seeing itself in position to give out those long-term deals.
Yeah, right.
Apropos this offseason, where everything was a bunch of short-term deals, one-year deals, things like that. So I think that there's your case against, right? Stifle some of the development of some of your younger players, while also
look, ladies and gentlemen, let me help you out here. That is not part of the conversation. Stifling your young player development is not part of this equation. The pro is that Brandon Aiyuk is awesome. The con is that you're going to have to pay him a lot of monies, and we don't have a lot of monies. In chapter. End of book. That is what the Saints are wagering. That is what the Saints are trying to figure out. They're not trying to figure out if it'll stifle the development of Bub Means. They're not trying to figure out if bringing on Brandon Aiyuk will stifle the development of Rashid Shaheed. That is absolutely bananas and pajamas insane. Not part of the thing. Not part of the conversation. On one side of the ring, you have a Pro Bowl, awesome, super cool, sweet, dope, awesome, cool, sweet wide receiver, and Brandon Aiyuk. On the other side, in the blue corner, you have a team with salary cap issues. Fight. That's it. There is no development stifling. There is none of that. Okay? The Saints are starved for a great wide receiver. One of our weakest position group is wide receiver. There is not a con to actually bringing on Brandon Aiyuk if you can. If you feasibly can do it financially and whatever else, there is not a con, do it. Now, I'm not going to say trade two firsts for him, but if the price is a second and a fifth, and you can sign Aiyuk to a long-term deal, do it. The development of Bub Means and Cedric Wilson and whoever else is not part of that equation.
Also opening up more opportunities for them, but overall probably stifling them because it's taking targets away, taking focus away from those players. And then, of course, having to deal with the money of it all.
This is another thing I always talk about. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, players do more than play the games. Practice, training camp, walkthroughs, watching tape, workouts, off-season, preseason, OTAs. Just because Brandon Aiyuk will take 6-7 catches a game away doesn't mean that the development is stifled. Does anyone here think that Jamal Williams hurt the development of Kendra Miller? Because Kendra Miller was under him on the depth chart? Or do you think Kendra Miller still got in his workouts, got in his, training camp, off-season work, still did all that? It's insane.
The Saints could potentially give up that second and fifth round picks, those second and fifth round picks, and then end up bringing him in under the salary cap by, finally getting this extension done with Alvin Kamara to knock the salary cap space down and things like that. Like there's a lot of different ways they could potentially get him in under the hood, but then what do you do with him after that? What do you do with the money after that? Do you just let it sit as a whole right away? Or do you end up trying to extend and then potentially pushing more money down the road when you're trying to get out from under some of the cap mechanics that you've had to do post-COVID?
That's the real conversation.
Post the COVID seasons and all that. So that's where things can get a little bit kind of jumbly, a little bit jam-packed for you and everything like that. But if you're looking at some point to rotate this team into what has become the typical style of building an offense across the NFL, which is build the offense, maintain, find, sign, trade for, obtain, however it is you want to look at it, long-term talent on the offense around the quarterback, and then eventually just slot a rookie quarterback in or a quarterback on a rookie contract in, then this then could potentially be one of those 2-3 year down the line moves. But then you're having entirely different conversations because have you extended Chris Olave? Have you extended Rashid Shaheed? Who's your offensive coordinator? Who's your head coach in 2-3 years? All these other things. So it just seems like a little bit of uncertainty when it.
Now that part, if I'm Dennis Allen, I'm for sure signing Brandon Aiyuk. Because Dennis Allen's thinking, I don't care about the cap. I might get fired. So if you're Dennis Allen, all hands on deck. Okay? All hands on deck. Sign whoever. Sign this running back. Sign this wide receiver. Sign this tight end. Don't care. Because if you're Dennis Allen, what you're focused on is this year. What you're focused on is right now. You're not focused on 2027's cap. All right? So Dennis Allen should be the first one saying, we should sign Brandon Aiyuk. Dennis Allen should be number one on the phone calling John Lynch. Because what's he got to lose? Nothing. He wants to not sign Brandon Aiyuk so that he can develop Bub Means. By the time he developed Bub Means, Dennis Allen's going to be the defensive coordinator of the Steelers. Right? So Dennis better roll out the red carpet.
Comes to that. So I think everything you're looking for the four when it comes to this, the case for trading for Aiyuk is about short-term competition. Everything, though, in terms of the kind of argument against a trade for Brandon Aiyuk comes down to, well, what about the long-term ability to be competitive for this team? I think that's the way that you're looking at it. Are you willing to put the long-term development on hold to see if you can compete right now? Or are you concerned that the roster, even with Brandon Aiyuk, isn't good enough to compete right now, and therefore the long-term goals are much more important? That's kind of, I think, what this is all going to come down to. Plus, of course, teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers, Washington Commanders, and others being very, very desperate in terms of trying to find a receiver for their young quarterbacks, or new quarterbacks, let's say it that way. All right, coming up next, let's take a look at midweek fundamentals. I want to take a look at what Clint Kubiak's system.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think I philosophically disagree with what Ross is saying. I think Ross has kind of missed the point on how this works. I would take a shot at it. I mean, like I said, if I could, I don't know the salary cap stuff, but I would have a conversation with our cap guy in the front office, and I would say, listen, you tell me how we can make this work. What's the pros? What's the cons as far as financials? Will we have to cut, one of our higher contracts? Will we have to trade this player? Will we have to do this? Or do we just manipulate the cap, push money into future seasons? If so, what's it going to cost us, pick-wise? And then you probably make the deal. There you go. All right. Let me catch up in chat. I think Aiyuk wants more than he's really worth. Also, it's awkward because then him and Olave would both be number one. See, I mean, like I said, I don't really believe in the whole, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, the new style of the NFL is the Rams. It is the 49ers. Who is the one on the Rams? Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua? They would probably say, we don't care. There isn't a one. We're both just getting open. Who's the one last year for the Niners? Who cares, right? Sometimes it's Christian McCaffrey. Sometimes it's Brandon Aiyuk. Sometimes it's Deebo Samuel. Sometimes it's George Kittle. They're just trying to win games. Eagles, who's the one? A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith? They'll probably tell you, who cares? We're just trying to get open. Whoever they throw the ball to, works for me. My boy James finally caught Olave, Kyrie's World. Welcome. With the players we have, is our offense going to look more like the Niners or the Dolphins? I believe we have the players to be a mixture of the two. Yeah, I think it'll be a mixture of the two. I think those two offenses, if you take the Dolphins, you take the Niners, put them together, I think that'll be very similar to what we are. I would say we are probably passing game-wise more like the Niners, and we're probably running game-wise more like the Dolphins. C-Mac equals AK, Aiyuk equals Olave, Tyreek Hill equals Shaheed. I don't know about that. Tyreek Hill had 1,700 yards last year. I don't think Shaheed's going to get there. We can't forget Taysom can also throw the ball, so think about how the Niners would use Juwan Jennings on the reverse pass. True. Very true. I say stay loyal to your Saints players until they don't want to be loyal to the Saints anymore. Greetings from Australia. What's happening, Andrew? How you doing? How is it down under? Olave has some of the best hands in the league due to Sweet. Agreed. Who dat? I might be late, but I made it. What up, though? Who dat family? Jason, how is it going? How are you doing? I mean, what do y'all think? Y'all think we should take a chance at why are we assuming this offense will look like the 49ers instead of looking like the Vikings when Clint was there? Because Clint has been under Kyle. I think Clint understands that the Kyle Shanahan offense worked better than what he was doing in Minnesota. I think Kyle showed him kind of, okay, this is how we're doing it. This is the new style of the NFL. I think Kubiak understood that. Kubiak, as the passing game coordinator, had to be very, very deep into that system. So I would think a year later, he's going to lean on that system. He's not going to revert back to what he did many moons ago in Minnesota. It's 2 a.m. in the UK, but I'm here. What's happening? Ellis, how are you doing? James, what if Olave and Aiyuk goes for 1,300 yards? Do you pay both? Yes. But you'll have to have that worked out. You'll have to have it worked out where your financial guy says we can do this. If your financial guy says we cannot do this, you gotta weigh that. The players will get the opportunity to show their skills with Clint. Big true, Debbie. Big true. There you go, Ross Jackson. The Saints should look like a hybrid version of the Shanahan offensive system. Yes, agreed. Like I said, I think it'll look very similar to San Francisco. Sometimes I even surprise myself. But think about it. Clint Kubiak was the passing game coordinator for San Fran. So he is going to absolutely do passing-wise what they did in San Francisco. I think our offense, our roster, is closer to Miami when it comes to running the football. So he obviously knows that style of the running game. And I think that's what he's going to blend together. All right. Corey Laverne. I think we're underrated. I see this team winning 12 games. 12 is a lot. 12 is a lot. Could happen, but 12 is a lot. I'm thinking people are underrating Kamara. I agree with that 100%. I thought I was a rare Saints fan being from Pennsylvania. We got boys in Australia and the UK. Who dat? Would you rather have Devontae Adams or Aiyuk? Devontae Adams. All I remember last year is Olave dropping balls. Pause. I don't get the hype. Only 5 catches or so stick out in my mind all year. Intuit reviews. Were you around for the first video we reacted to today? In that video, we talked about this a little bit. So in the Pro Football Focus. Pro Football Focus graded Chris Olave over the last 10 years. They graded Chris Olave as having the 8th best 2 years to start a career in the last 10 years. I'm pulling up some stats here. All right. We're going to do a little trivia. The morale was low last year. All right. Let's look at it, ladies and gentlemen. So this is how we do it. We're going to look at drops. So this is the narrative. This is how we do it. On what criteria? Clutch catches? No, it was on expected value over league average, I believe. It was like their QBR stat, basically, for wide receivers. I'm pretty sure. Here it is. It is his PFF receiving grade. It's 87. Here it is right here. His 87.2 PFF receiving grade over his first 2 seasons ranks 8th among wide receivers over the last decade. Then you could go into what quantifies that. I guess it's all of this. I guess it's routes per game, receiving yards per game, avoided tackles per game, target rate, 5+ yard reception per route, YPRR, EPA. EPA is the expected average over their average position of the year. And then that equates his PFF receiving grade. And he's been consistent. He had the same grade year 1 and year 2. Now, so the narrative that we have is that Chris Olave last year, all that that boy Intuit Reviews remembers is him dropping balls. Pause. Man's them dropping balls. All right. So we are going to do some compare and contrast to see how many balls he actually did drop. Whew. All right, let's take a look. Deebo Samuel, 2 drops last year on 89 targets, 9 drops on 94 targets, 10 drops on 121 targets, 9 drops on 81 targets, 44 targets, not much to, he got hurt here. So you see how much Deebo Samuel drops balls. All right. How about Brandon Aiyuk? 2 on 105 last year, 7 on 114 in 2022, 4 on 84, and 5 on 96. Okay. Jamar Chase, 11 his first 2 years, 22 drops in his first 2 years, and then 5 last year. Got better, but 11 his first 2 years. What about Justin Jefferson? How many balls do you think Justin Jefferson drops? What do y'all think? Justin Jefferson, JJ. Best receiver in the league, some would say. 2, his rookie year on 125. 7, his second year on 167. 5 on 184. 1 on 100. This is pretty damn good. 5 on 184. 7 on 167. Pretty sporty. Okay. Much better than Jamar Chase. What do y'all think? Anybody else y'all want to see before we look at Chris Olave? And I want y'all to tell me what you think Chris Olave's drops are going to look like. What about Devontae Adams? What about drops for Devontae? Devontae, 5 drops rookie year, 7, 1, 3, 7, and 8. Not as good as Justin Jefferson. Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's a good one. That's a good one. It's a good one. Tyreek Hill's a good one. Tyreek Hill. Last year dropped 12 passes. The year before, 8. The year before, 7. The year before, 5, 3, and 6. Let's get out the old calculator. See the percentage. So on 171 targets, 12 drops is a 14.25%. So what do y'all think? What do y'all think Olave is going to be? Do y'all think it's going to be way higher than Tyreek Hill? Way higher than Devontae Adams? Way higher than Deebo Samuel? Way higher than Brandon Aiyuk? Way higher than Jamar Chase? Way higher than Justin Jefferson? Here we go. 7 and 6. Okay? So, on 138 attempts, if he drops 6 passes, okay, so his drop, let's see. Okay. So what do y'all think? Is that surprising? Is that surprising to y'all? Did y'all think he dropped more? Do Shaheed? Shaheed's not going to have the volume. But we will do Shaheed. Shaheed dropped 2 passes on 74 targets. Like I said, his targets are so low. Like, you got to remember how low his targets are. It's also a different. You also had to factor in how they are catching passes. Like, is Rashid catching mostly contested catches, or, you know, there's a lot to that. All right. Let's see here. Puka had 13 drops last year. Yeah, Shahid's definitely the explosive player. I'm trying to find drop rate stats so we can do some of these. Oh, I don't want to do the math for every single person. Let's see. Do I know it gets labeled as a drop? I know it has to be a catchable pass. Because that's another statistic, is a catchable ball. So I would assume a catchable ball, it's a catchable ball that goes incomplete. Is what I would assume a drop is. You need a co-producer? I do, man, I do. Okay, I got it. I have the drop. I have the definition. Okay, I have the definition. I'm Googling this. A drop is, I just saw it. Okay, a drop is when a receiver gets his hand on a catchable ball that leads to an incompletion. That is what a drop is. So, like I said, if you catch, or if your hands hit a catchable pass, that is incomplete. So then you have, so this is the formula. Dropped passes divided by, what the hell is going on here? So it's like an error in baseball. Yeah. Let's see top 10 drop percentage NFL 2023. All right, so the drop leader, but I want to see the drop percentage. Show me the percentage. Puka Nacua led the NFL in drops. Tyreek Hill, second. Devontae Adams had 8. Stephon Diggs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Travis Kelce. A.J. Brown. Just dropping in to say hello. I get a kick out of your reaction videos. Great work. Andres, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. James, do you know who Jake Paul is? And if so, do you think his fights are real? I do know who Jake Paul is, and yes, I think his fights are real. Big, yeah. So the point of this exercise, ladies and gentlemen, is that it shows you how a narrative can get a little gray, okay? It shows you how winning and results can mask a lot, right? Does anybody care that Tyreek Hill had 12 drops last year? No. Why? Because they care that he had 1,799 yards. They care that he had 13 touchdowns. They care that he had 112 yards a game. Nobody cares that he dropped the ball 12 times. Right? Does anybody care that Puka Nacua had 13 drops last year? No. Why? Because he broke Randy Moss's record for receiving yards for a rookie. That's why. Does anybody care that Devontae Adams had 8? That Diggs had 8? That Amon-Ra St. Brown had 8? No. Why? Because they had 1,500 yards, 1,200 yards, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns. What was also, this is A.J. Brown, same thing, 7 drops. A.J. Brown had 1 more drop last year than Chris Olave. Chris Olave's isn't held in the same esteem as A.J. Brown. Garrett Wilson had 1 more drop last year than Chris Olave. Goes to show. Anytime you have a narrative in your head, anytime you think something, anytime you think, I feel like this is the case, sometimes you're right. Like sometimes the feeling is right. But in today's day and age where analytics and data and all of that is easily accessible, always check to make sure the analytics match up with the narrative. When the analytics match up with the narrative, you're on to something. If the narrative doesn't match the analytics or the analytics don't match the narrative, back to the drawing board. That's how it works. That's how it works. You can do it in reverse, right? You can do it in reverse. You can say, well, Jamal Williams had the most touchdowns in the NFL 2 years ago. Is he the best running back in the NFL? I would say no. So then I go dig into the analytics. The analytics say, nope, he's not. Analytics can also skew a narrative. True. Exactly. Yep. Always double check. But I always, always double check. For example, we're doing this is quick research. We're just doing this as a little example. But so we use that analytic to show that Chris Olave isn't dropping any more balls than other receivers, right? What's the next level of that? The next level is, okay, let's see their drop rate on contested catches. Next level of that is, okay, let's see. There's only 6 drops. So you could probably find all 6 of these drops on YouTube, on the All-22. You could watch all 6 of these drops. Are they contested? Are they wide open? Are they on third down? Are they, then you go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. It may be a thing where all 6 of these are dropped on contested catches. That's an issue. It may be where all 6 of these are drops when he's wide open. That's an issue, right? So, yeah, doing one quick, research, one quick analytic thing, that's not enough to build a whole case study. But I'm just showing y'all how you can have a narrative, you can have analytics. How do you marry them both? When you marry them both, that's how you can kind of stay on the cutting edge of like analysis. That's how we do it here. What I'm telling y'all during videos, during reactions, during the season, post-game, pre-game, whatever, it is because I've married analytics and I've married a narrative. And it's sound. That's why we don't have to rely on knee-jerk reactions. A lot of media people, Skip Bayless is one of the worst at it. If LeBron James has a great game, LeBron James is the best player in the NBA. If he has a bad game, he's overrated. And it goes back and forth every single day. Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott. 1 week, he's the MVP. 1 week, the Cowboys can't win with him. It's because they're allowing the narrative to take over. Okay, I'm biased, but we had an easy schedule last year, and we have an easy schedule this year. We should be at least a game better. Schedule's a little bit harder. Schedule's a little bit harder than last year. It's actually a lot harder than last year. All right, we are going to finish the stream with a voice message. Corey, Laverne, voice message sent 5 hours ago. Nice. Nice. We talk about quarterback number 1 in the NFL all the time. What number receiver do you think Olave is? I think he's somewhere between 15 and 20. Somewhere in there. Somewhere in there. I'd say 15 to 20. I'd be okay with 15, but I would say 15 is probably on the higher end. I would say 15 to 20 is fine. Anything below 20 is a little bit much, but I'd say 15. I'd be cool with 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, any of those. Is CD a first-round pick in fantasy? Yeah, for sure. Probably, I would guess, top 5. All right, Corey, here we go. Oh, did not want to do that. Don't want to reply.
This is commenting on your...
Okay, what's going on here? I jacked up my mic.
Episode with the talking about... This is commenting on your episode with the talking about the NFC South being bad in 2017. Didn't 3 teams in 2017 for the NFC South make the playoffs because we beat the crap out of the Panthers in that wild card game before we played Minnesota? And they've been saying we've been the worst division in football since that time. And I don't believe that's true because we are very competitive. We all normally stay with each other.
Well, I mean, 2017 is a bit of a different time. Let's go ahead and see. 2017, let's just do it this way. 2017 NFL standings. God, man. All right. 2017 NFL standings. In the NFC. How do I go to the NFC? Here we go. We had the Saints 11-5. We had the Panthers 11-5. We had the Falcons 10-6. True and real. True and real. All 3 teams in 2017 made the playoffs. True and real. Now, let's take a look here. Let's go to the stats. Season leaders. 2007 regular season. 2017, excuse me. Now, can anybody tell me what the big difference is between 2017 NFC South and now NFC South? Does anybody want to know why that's a dangerous comparison? I'll give you 3 hints. Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Cam Newton. The NFC South was certainly not the weakest division in football in 2017 when you have Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, and Cam Newton all in the same division. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I explained this in that very video. Just because you're competitive, like it's obvious, I'm looking at this, it's obvious what's the worst division. What do y'all think is the worst division in here? I would, let's see. There's two of them that it could be. The worst division in this season, the worst division was, I think, the AFC West. I would say. Because the South, you've got the Jaguars at 10-6. But if you look at their points for and points allowed, they have a plus 149 difference. So their defense is gnarly. They allowed 268 points. Their defense is sick. You go down here to the Chiefs, who were 10-6. They allowed 339. Their differential is 76. And they were 6-6 at one point. The Jaguars were 10-4. And they lost their last two. The Jaguars are much better than the Chiefs. So the AFC West, just looking at it like this, would have been the worst division in football this year. So I would almost guarantee you their quarterbacks are going to be garbage. Let's see who the quarterbacks in the AFC West were this season. You had Rivers. Sweet. We know that. This is Alex Smith. Okay. Then we've got, who are the Raiders? Oh, this is not looking good for the Raiders. Wait, where are we at now? Where is it? Oh, Brock Osweiler. This is the Brock Osweiler. Yep. Trevor Siemian, Brock Osweiler. Lord have mercy. Ay caramba. I don't even see the Raiders on here. How bad was their quarterback play? Why am I missing the Raiders? Jesus. Oh, EJ Manuel? What is going on here? Why is he... Oh, Derek Carr. Yeah, this is not a good year from Carr. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I would say the West. But, yeah, I mean, the NFC South this year is probably the weakest. We explain that because the top end and bottom end kind of averaged out. But in 2017, yeah, they weren't. They were sweet. But don't get competitive mixed up with, like, good or bad. The AFC West is not competitive. Like last year, the AFC West was not competitive at all. The Chiefs were far and away the best team. The Raiders had a +1 point differential. The Chiefs were the only team in the division, really, with a plus point differential. The Chiefs were far and away better. The AFC West wasn't competitive at all. Was the AFC West the worst division in football last year? No, because they had the Kansas City Chiefs. They had the Super Bowl winner. They had Patrick Mahomes. Right? The NFC South was fiercely competitive. Right? They had 9-8, 9-8. I mean, it came down to the end of the season, came down to a tiebreaker. But you can't say the NFC South was the best division, wasn't the worst, or was worse. Or you can't say the NFC South was better than the AFC West because of Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Right? So it's a little tricky. It's not, saying the NFC South is the worst division of football sounds bad, but it is what it is. And the point is, we got to win the worst division of football. That's it. Right? So if you take the best players and coaches from each division and create 8 all-star division teams with the South coming last place. If you take the best players and coaches from each division, this is one hell of a... So if you take the best players and coaches from each division and create 8 all-star division teams, yeah, they probably would. I see what you're saying now. If so, who would be your starting 11? So like, look at it like this. Let's do the NFC. So who would be the quarterback of the East? Probably Jalen Hurts or Dak Prescott, one of the two. But let's just say Jalen Hurts. Who would be the quarterback of the North? Probably Jared Goff. What about the South? Probably Kirk Cousins, a lot of people would say. Who about the West? Probably Matt Stafford. Maybe Brock Purdy. Now, if you rank those 4 quarterbacks, who would you rank last? I would rank Kirk Cousins last. I would rank Derek Carr last out of those 4 guys. If you did the AFC West, who's your quarterback? Patrick Mahomes. If you did the South, who's your quarterback? CJ Stroud. If you did the North, who's your quarterback? Let's just say Lamar Jackson. If you did the East, who's your quarterback? Let's say Aaron Rodgers or Josh Allen. So if you did the entire NFL, all 8 quarterbacks, whether it's Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr or Baker Mayfield, the all-star team, the number 8 all-star team quarterback would come out of the South. Truck driving across the country, watching your live. Whoo, that might be the comment of the day. Yeah, so yeah, that's just kind of how I look at the top end. I look at the bottom end, and that's kind of how I come out with the worst conference. And if you took it on like it's crazy because I mean the Panthers are probably there in the conversation, but the AFC West more than likely has the best team in the NFL in it, the Chiefs, and the worst team in the NFL, the Broncos. AFC East has 3 legitimate Super Bowl contenders, and the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets, and then they have the worst team in the NFL, the Patriots. So there's a lot of parity. There's a lot of parity in these conferences. So it's tricky. It's tricky business. Ladies and gentlemen, we went over 15 minutes. So y'all got a little extra time from me. So we ended up going about an hour, a little over an hour and a half. So we didn't miss too much time. We usually go 2 hours. We usually go 6 to 8. But again, traffic was absolutely insane today in New Orleans. Got me here a little late. Good stuff. What a stream. 2 videos, question, great questions in the chat. Amazing stuff. We had it all in here tonight. Pammy Whammy was in here for God's sakes. I mean, what else? I mean, what else do you need, ladies and gentlemen? Crushed it. Thanks, James. This was fun. Thank y'all. Great conversation. Great discussion. PFF ranked him right at 15. Boom. Me and PFF. Great stream. Thank you, Divine. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll count and get back to you. Make a spreadsheet. Maybe you're right. I'll look forward to it. Into reviews, go ahead and whenever you get your top 15, comment it on any of my videos and I'll see it. Great stream. Who dat? Thank you, Ellis. Elmer, driving across the country in that truck. 2 hands on the wheel. 2 hands in the wheel. Get you some corn nuts. Ranch. Be safe on the roads. Thank you for choosing to listen and watch this stream while you're driving. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate all that. We'll see you next week. We will not be streaming on Thursday. I have to go out of town. I'll be in Salt Lake City. First time up in the mountains. Altitude, here I come. But Thursday nights are stream nights, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Videos will be, hit the like on the way out, all that stuff. Videos will be all scheduled normally. So we will not miss any videos. Videos tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. Y'all know the drill. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I will see you.